Welcome on in, everybody. This will be Season 7, Episode number 8 of the Outlap F1 podcast, and you have found us. Congratulations. It's our 2025 Bahrain GP Preview show. We're actually going to go racing. We're no longer testing. We're actually going to go race around there, dang it. You've got Andy and I'm along with Cody tonight, and I feel like I'm still recovering from Japan. I don't know about you, but my rhythm is trying to reset my rhythm all week. It's been difficult, but Cody, how's it hanging?
I'm kind of a night owl anyway, so it hasn't been too bad for me, especially since Japan wasn't as bad as China. China was rough, but yeah, I'm more or less back to normal. I am really excited though about getting to watch a race that's neither in the middle of the night nor at the crack of dawn, because those ones are just as bad, if not worse, for me.
Yeah, it's like daylight. We're actually going to watch F1 in daylight. I don't know what we're going to do with ourselves, but we're going to hopefully get excited and hopefully have a very interesting and fascinating race upon us, because things are happening in the world of F1, and we're going to talk about some of that. So if you have found our show, as always, welcome along. You can find us newly minted on Blue Sky or X, Instagram, Discord, sometimes on Reddit every now and again. And, of course, here on YouTube at Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle for all of those places. If you enjoy what you are hearing and you like what you're seeing, if you want to click the like button or a subscribe button, you will get notified when we post latest and new content. If you're on your favorite podcasting app, if you want to leave us a 5-star review, that'll also help us get our content to you that much quicker. You can email the show, as always, either the chat now at outlapf1.com, or it will forward to the outlapf1@gmail.com. So if you don't get a positive response through chat now, just use the base email and we will definitely get it. Outlap F1 Nation, who continues to help support this show. Thank you so much to Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Telly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to become a member of that hashtag Outlap F1 Nation, hey, we give you guys a shout out every start of every episode. If you want to leave us a couple bucks, $1, $5, it's our anchor page. What does all that go do? It just goes into trying to keep our technology as current as we can and allows us to try to make the show better. So that's what we're all trying to do with that. We would be appreciative if you'd like to do that. All right. Well, with not much turnaround time between the end of Japan and the start of the next race week, there really hasn't been a whole lot of opportunity for a whole lot of news. We talked about some of it actually on our review, with Ryo Harikawa being signed with Haas as their new reserve driver. I think he's actually getting an FP1 drive as well. I do think that's actually going to be a bit of a talking point this weekend. There are a lot of rookie testing FP1 you're probably going to see. I think there's like 5 or 6. I have to double check that, but of rookies going to be running in free practice 1. So not the most relevant free practice 1 anyway, because it's done in the daylight versus the free practice 2 and the qualifying sims, which will definitely happen after the sun goes down. So something to keep an eye on as we get into the weekend. But the big off-track story, and we talked about the V10 potential comeback a couple weeks ago in one of our episodes. We were just kind of debating the topic, and we kept saying that this looked like it was going to keep getting steam and more steam, and it was gaining more momentum. Well, F1 engine manufacturers are now going to have a bit of a summit. So they're going to have a meeting Friday in Bahrain, probably between FP1 and FP2, if the normal timing would always work, of course, when there's no TV around, and then, all these stories will come out while we're not paying attention to it. So according to motorsport.com, they understand the FIA has now organized it. So this is Mohammed Ben Sulayem continuing to push this forward, a meeting with all current F1 engine manufacturers for the Friday of the Bahrain GP. The exact agenda is not necessarily clear, but it's expected to gauge whether there's a support, or whether there is going to be support for enough engine manufacturers to potentially shift back to the V10 engines. We were kind of talking in the pre-show before we kind of got going. We thought the earliest this could happen might be 2028, but there is a provision in the rules if we get like an uber super majority. But so Cody, tell us what you know.
So My understanding is that this is an exploratory meeting, trying to see who's on board and what it would take to get other teams on board if it looks like it's heading in that direction. I've heard through commentary, commentary just like ours, as well as that which is a little bit more official, that you would need, under the current 5 teams that are going to be engine manufacturers going into next season, you need 80% or 4 out of the 5 to approve new engine regulations. And you have 2 teams right now, as things stand, that are hard against doing a new V10 engine regulation formula. And those teams at the moment look like they are Audi and Honda. Audi makes sense because these new engine regulations were supposed to be going into next year, with the more 50-50 split between electric and internal combustion engine power, is what got them interested in the sport in the first place, because they wanted something that was going to be pertinent to research that they could use in road cars, and hybrids still seem to be the way of the future right now. So it's going to take a lot to change their opinion. Honda, I really have no idea. Maybe they would be a little more willing. Also, from what I've heard, it sounds like Red Bull and Ferrari are pretty on board with trying something like a straight up V10 engine formula, whereas Mercedes is kind of, well, we could be persuaded type of position. All in all, we're not going to hear anything come out of this weekend that's going to say, yes, we are doing V10 engines and nothing else, and it's going to start happening at this time. I am still very much of the opinion that the engines that we're supposed to see next year are going to be there next year. They're going to be there at least a couple years beyond that, because this is a little too late in the game to seriously consider going back to a non-hybrid V10 type formula, because all the teams that are supposed to be producing those engines next year are all well into their research and development on those engines. You can't just switch it up now and expect that they're going to abandon all that money and research that they put into this and switch it up at the last minute. As you discussed in a podcast that we had last week, even Mercedes has said that they wouldn't really be able to accommodate the current engine regulations beyond this year for all of the teams that normally use Mercedes engines, because they've already started converting all their facilities to produce the new engines that we're expecting to see. So if they can't go backwards to the current engines to produce those in time for next year, they're definitely not going to be able to produce V10s in time for next year. I think that means that no team is going to be ready for next year. The question is how likely is this to happen? How quickly could they get something approved if they can get at least one of the 2 remaining teams to be convinced on board? And then how quickly do you try to implement this? Do you stick with the new engine regulations that we're expecting to see for next year? Do you stick with that for the original allotted time, which I think was through 2030 or something like that?
Yeah.
Or do you try to go for something sooner?
Yeah, I mean, I would think that if there is momentum, and I think you're correct when you say Honda and Audi are probably not going to be on board. So let's say you had 3 out of 5. Let's say you had Mercedes get convinced to not just be neutral, but want to push. And let's say some sort of a compromise gets reached and we have, breaking headlines and all this other stuff. I think the earliest you're going to be able to see anybody do anything with this is going to be 2028. So you're definitely going to see. Let's just put it this way: I would be absolutely gobsmacked, shocked, if we do not see the expected car configuration and engine formula that we thought we were going to go see in 2026. It's going to happen. It'd be you're almost more than a quarter of the way into this year. You can't pivot that quickly. It's great to throw the suggestion out on paper, but there's too many things that would have to happen in order to do this. There's 150 steps, and they're on step 3 if they even made the decision to do it. So
it's not even just this year. They've been developing these engines. They've had a cost cap to do so for I think a couple of years now. So that's all that money that would go down the drain too. It just, to me, it doesn't make sense to pivot that quickly if it was even possible, just from the time and money side of things.
Right.
How quickly that they would implement new engine regs, something else that we discussed before, was that kind of really depends on how good the racing is, because, that's kind of what really draws people in, right? And there is some concern that the new engine regulations beginning next year might not produce the best racing. If that turns out to be the case, then they might really actually try to fast track something different. But we haven't even seen in reality how that looks yet. So it might turn out to be great. And the active aero might add a new interesting part to the puzzle that also, accounts for some of the shortcomings of the 50-50 energy split. And it might be awesome. And we might decide, hey, let's just keep these around until we were originally intending to consider something new.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there too, because if like we're 4 rounds in and we're coming to this meeting, let's say this time next year, and we've had 4 races where the leader has won by 20 plus seconds, and it's all the same manufacturers, it's all Mercedes. Let's just do full devil's advocate for a moment. Let's just say it's all Mercedes manufacturers or Mercedes customers that are in the top 8 for the first 3 rounds of next year, and we get to Bahrain. Then you have momentum. Then if you're Honda and you're Ford and you're Audi, you're looking at this and you're going, what the hell did we get into? We're so far behind. By the time we catch up, it's going to be 2030. So yeah, let's go simplify, and we can produce an engine like that, no problem. And we'll do it. You'll have momentum and you'll have motivation because it's going to hit everybody in the pocketbook, and it's going to affect everybody's prize money, motivation to try to get this through. Like I said before, I would be absolutely shocked if we get anything other than we had a productive meeting and we're tabling this for at least another year, and we're going to go into the 2026 regs, and then we're going to talk about it then. That's more than likely what I think the outcome of this is going to be. Now, of course, now that I've said that, just you wait. So if you're a fan of this, I have now given plenty of fodder for the Outlap F1 podcast curse to come over the Bahrain International Circuit. And because, look, I'd love to have the V10 engines back with some sort of sustainable fuel. I do think there is an element missing to being there, with it not being a visceral reaction to watching an F1 car go past, because I do think that's part of it. So, yeah, I'm all on board with doing it, but let's do it, and let's do it smartly, and let's not do it quickly and out of a knee-jerk reaction. So we'll continue to follow this. Obviously, if big things break between FP1 and FP2, we'll do our best to give them to you as we learn them. Okay, well, that's really kind of it for the big news. There wasn't a whole lot of, like I said, development. I think most teams are just kind of transporting all their stuff. They're getting into Bahrain later tonight, early tomorrow. They're going to set up. Media day will happen, and we'll kind of see if there's any big other stories to follow. But so we're just going to go ahead and hop right back into our Bahrain GP track facts that are brought to us by the good folks at Pirelli Motorsport. So, Cody, tell us about the Bahrain International Circuit.
All right. This weekend we are racing at the Bahrain International Circuit, located in Sakir, Bahrain. A number of laps around the circuit for the Grand Prix is going to be 57, and the length of that circuit is 5.412 kilometers. That's 3.362 miles, and it consists of 15 turns. Tire selection from Pirelli is going to be the hardest on offer. It's the C1 for the hard, the C2 for the medium, and the C3 for the soft. And the track characteristics from Pirelli, all out of 5 are going to be a 4 for traction, a 3 for asphalt grip, a 5 for asphalt abrasion, a 4 for track evolution, a 3 for tire stress, 4 for braking, 3 for lateral load, and a 3 for downforce. The qualifying lap record around this circuit is a very speedy. 1 minute, 27.264 seconds. That was set by Lewis Hamilton in 2020 with that really awesome Mercedes W11, I think is what it was. The race lap record here, however, it stood the test of time. It was set by Pedro de la Rosa with a 1 minute, 31.447 seconds, and that was set way back in 2005. Andy and I were trying to reason before the show why it stood so long, and we figured it's a combination of the really hard tires that they used that year and the fact that refueling was still a thing.
Yep.
Most wins at the Bahrain Grand Prix is going to be 5, set by Lewis Hamilton, and followed by 4 for Sebastian Vettel, 3 for Fernando Alonso, and a tie of 2 each for Felipe Massa and Max Verstappen, while most constructor wins here is a 7 for Ferrari, followed by a 6 for Mercedes, a 4 for Red Bull, and a 2 for Renault. What's the circuit like, Andy?
All right, so for Bahrain, you can usually expect some decent racing and good amounts of overtaking. Hello, Japan. If you didn't get it there, we're probably going to see some here in Bahrain while the drivers have to contend with the wind, which we will definitely talk about, racing under the floodlights, and the difficulty of finding the setup with the wide temperature fluctuation between the sessions. The track's most challenging point is the tight downhill off-camber turn 10 left-hander, while the fast run through turn 12 is another highlight, allowing the racers to really feel their cars coming alive. As for that weather, it is going to be a lot warmer than it was for testing, that is for sure. This is more Bahrain classic. Really warm during the day. I'm only going to give you guys the temperatures for the overnight sessions because that's the ones that are most relevant. So for qualifying, it's going to be mainly clear skies, reducing from the 90s down to the upper 70s. Winds out of the north at 10 to 15, so it's very breezy still. Only a 5% chance of rain. And for the race on Sunday, a mainly clear sky, low 77. Again, coming down from the mid and upper 80s. Winds out of the northeast at 10 to 15. So again, still pretty blustery there. Another only 5% chance of rain. So, yeah, no possibility, I think, of the intermediate or the wet tires this weekend. It's going to be all dry running. But I also would expect classic Bahrain, where it's, the sandstorms are going to be there, and that may be how you have your delay, if there is any delay to the sessions this weekend. There won't be any grass on fire, I can tell you that. That's for sure.
First, there would have to be grass.
Yes.
It's hard to imagine any rain in Bahrain, honestly.
Well, that's why it was so weird when it rained for 2 hours during testing. Because it's like, it's one of the 4 days a year they get rain, and we found one. But there you go. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. We'll re-rack. We'll come on back, and we're going to tell you what we think is going to happen over the course of the Bahrain GP weekend. So come on back. You won't want to miss it. All right, welcome back on in. This is Season 7, Episode number 8 of the Outlap F1 Podcast. It's our 2025 Bahrain GP Preview show. It's the second leg of our first triple header of the season, and you have got Andy, and I'm along with Cody tonight, and we just kind of teed up the Bahrain track facts, and now we're going to try to figure out what we think is actually going to try to happen over the course of this weekend. We're going to get into our predictions for the Bahrain GP, and as we are apt to do, we will start with the pole sitter. The 2024 pole sitter was last week's winner, Max Verstappen. So Cody, do you think, I keep saying this, like the first 6 races last year, do you think he can repeat and do it again? Or do we have somebody else in mind? What's your thought?
I think we're going to return to our regularly scheduled programming, and I think we're going to see Lando Norris sitting on pole again, if not him, Piastri, but my vote is for Norris.
All right, very good. Lando's got to be feeling the pressure, and he's got to be trying to come up with something good, and this is their best chance as any to try to capitalize and get back to form. So, and it's weird. I'm saying a first and 2 seconds is not on form. That like I feel like I have to slap myself. Like, what are you doing? But that's kind of where we are, because it's only 1 point in the drivers right now. So Lando's got to put something together. He's got to do it pretty much now. So I've got Lando Norris taking the pole because I think they were really good around here. When it was cooler or when it was warmer, they seem to like this track, even though it's normally McLaren kryptonite. It would be mega progress for that team to go from 2 years ago where they were getting passed on the straight, in the back straight, and all sorts of places to maybe being on pole. So we'll go for that arc there. So our qualifying pole lap, this is where I think life is going to get interesting because our 2024 pole lap was a 129.179. We talked about Lewis Hamilton's mega lap from 2020. We've also seen our pole laps be kind of all over the place, depending on where we're going. The good news, what makes it a little bit maybe more predictable is there is no track resurfacing. It's the classic Bahrain circuit that we all know and kind of recognize. But Cody, what you got for your qualifying lap pole time?
I feel like so far I've been not going fast enough. I didn't think that they would find that much time in the development of these cars going to this year. So past couple races I've been going ballpark half a second faster. Now I'm kicking it up to closer to 1 second. So I'm going to go with a 128.311 seconds.
All right, very good. I'm going to go quicker because the last 2 times I haven't been quick enough. And there was the one where we were China was bad. Yeah. So I'm going to say, I think they're going to dip into the 127s just because of what I saw last week. They just pulled lap time out of everywhere. So 127.892. So I have a really, really fast one. We'll see if anybody gets close to it. I'll take if I don't get the point here, at least then I kind of know where to calibrate moving forward. So we'll see kind of where we go with that. As for the race in 2024, Max Verstappen did take the win. Sergio Checo Perez came home in P2. And Carlos Sainz for Ferrari came home in P3. I have a funny feeling we're going to see at least a different podium, at least for some of those participants, because 2 of them aren't going to be there. All right, Cody, what you got for your race prediction on Sunday?
I do think it is going to be the McLaren show. I think we're going to get Lando Norris in first, Oscar Piastri in second. And while I would really like to see Verstappen on the podium, this track has a lot more tire deg than we saw in Japan. We saw in the first race in Australia that tire deg is much lighter on the McLaren than at least the Red Bull. So I think we're actually going to see George Russell back on the podium to finish in third.
Yeah, those Mercedes are being pesky, that's for sure. George Russell has definitely been pesky this season. I would agree with that. I do have Lando Norris taking the win, but it just seems like whenever there's a chance to open a gap, Max doesn't allow it. So I don't know how he's going to do it, but I just have this sinking feeling that Lando may get the win and may get his gap back a little bit, but Max is going to be there, dang it. So I got Max coming home in P2. Oscar Piastri being more than respectable, I think, in P3. I'm obviously rooting for something not this. I'm rooting for a Norris Piastri, and I would take a Russell and a Leclerc and maybe a Verstappen in fifth. That would be good. That'd be 15 points. But that I don't know. I can't. I'm not going to get caught not predicting Max to do well, and then Max does well. Not going to get caught with my pants down again on that one. So I do think Max will be a Max factor again this weekend. All right. So our fastest lap in the driver 2024, this was when Max was in his heyday, man. So Verstappen had the fastest lap, 132.608. Cody, what do we have here, and who do you think is going to do the fastest lap, and what do you think the time is going to be?
I've got Oscar Piastri doing the fastest lap. Maybe sitting in Norris's DRS. I don't really know. It's just going on vibes for this one.
Yeah, could be.
And I got it going a little faster than last year at a 1 minute 32.212 seconds.
All right, very good. So I'm going to give the fastest lap. I think if Norris is in clean air, I think that's the key. It's such a key for that car. So if they're going to have success, they definitely need to be in the clean air. And I think then that's when they can control things. I think there will be times when people will push and then they'll have to counter push. But I do think Lando will get the fastest lap at 1:32.005. So I am going pretty fast. But I do think that's where we've been trending. So let's, again, if I'm wrong, I'll take being wrong to recalibrate later. But I'd rather at least try to get in the ballpark there. All right. So for bonus picks, I've gone ahead and selected P5, P10, and P15. So big cross section of what we think our grid is going to be. I'll go first here. I think P5 is where I'm probably going to see a Ferrari, and I think Charles Leclerc will probably fill that seat. I know Ferrari are thinking about bringing a good swath of updates. It's very hard to get all those updates to work, even in the course of a traditional weekend. So, and with some reserve drivers getting FP1 drives and stuff like that, it's a big ask to get them to optimize all that stuff right away. So I'm going to have Leclerc coming home in P5. For P10, I've got Isaac Hadjar scoring points yet again. I think that's kind of where I think he would slot in as the Racing Bulls continue to show pretty good. And for P15, it gives me no joy to do this, but I don't see Jack Doohan doing anything really more than that so far. And it just seems like it's another race before the Colapinto train comes calling. So I've got him in P15. Cody, what you got for bonus picks?
You're talking about the Mercedes being pesky, and I think that's what we're going to see this weekend. I've got Kimi Antonelli slotting into the P5 position, continuing to get really good points in his first season. I've got Fernando Alonso coming in 10th. He was much closer to the points last race, and we've seen from Lance Stroll that it can be done. It can get points. So I've got him getting 1 point this weekend. And then also, in the theme of not wanting it to happen, I have Liam Lawson coming in 15th. I really hope he does better than that. I really hope he's getting a better hold of that RB car going into this race, but I don't have the confidence yet.
Yeah, we shall see. It'll definitely be the other guy who's under pressure is definitely going to be Liam Lawson this weekend. And that has not changed from race 1. So here we go again. But when and where can you watch your F1 this weekend? The good news is most of the, if not all of the college basketball is finally done. So we can kind of get back to some normal service on our ESPN family of networks. And the times are actually when people are awake in this country. So there's that too. So FP1 kicks off 7:25 a.m. Eastern. Get your coffee, watch some free practice. It's a good way to start your day. But that will be, you can find it on ESPNU. FP2 is 10:55 a.m. Eastern. If there is engine breaking news, that's where you're going to probably hear about it first. ESPNU would be your place to go there. For FP3 on Saturday morning, 8:25 a.m. Eastern kicks off that session in the twilight, not really the dusk or the lighter part of the day in Bahrain. That's going to be on ESPN2. The qualifying will happen under the floodlights as we are used to seeing. That's 11 a.m. Eastern. That's on ESPN2. And the race itself kicks off 10:55 a.m. Eastern. All sessions this weekend, other than ESPNU, will be on ESPN2. So you can find the race on ESPN2 this weekend. If you're looking on your ESPN family of networks, of course, F1 TV also will have you covered. Highly recommend, as even as long as they don't screw up like they did in last week, I think they'll be fine. But that was just a minor thing, and they got it fixed. So that's what I do like about them. They do react quickly to when there are issues. So, all right. Well, I guess it's kind of a short and sweet one for us this week. Cody, any final thoughts as we head into the race weekend?
Normally I'd be happy as a clam having qualifying at 11 a.m. on Saturday. However, my sister is getting married on Friday. So here's hoping I'm not completely hungover by the time qualifying rolls around. But we'll just have to see. Might have to catch that one a little later.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see if you get a text that says, "I'm up, god dang it, you better be." Then we'll know what kind of night we had the night before. But
yep.
That's actually kind of what we're hoping for. We're hoping we're going to all have a really good time. Congratulations to your sister there who's getting married. Yeah, I can't wait to watch all of that. So it's going to be a lot of fun Friday and Saturday. And then we will be back to try to recap all of this on Sunday night. So for Cody, it's been Andy. It's always a lot of fun to talk F1. Love to have F1 in my life. As always, folks, may all your laps be fast.